Hello students, welcome back to this series of Lakhs Purana, geography series. Now, we are going to discuss about the next topic that is given in the syllabus is the region specific resources and also a combination of oceanic resources. Now here when you talk about the notes making aspect on resources, you can divide these resources into different aspects. One is the oceanic resources, or it might be the energy resources, or it might be with respect to the oil resources, or it might be the natural resources as a broader topic. So these dimensions can be discussed with respect to this particular topic. Now when you talk about what are the components that are to be involved while making a notes, one very important aspect that you are supposed to keep this particular topic as a dynamic topic is what is the status of that particular resource. What is the status of that particular resource in the context of the world as well as in the context of India, because there were instances where UPSC has categorically gone for asking such question. Then apart from talking about the status with respect to the world as well as India, talk about what is the significance of that particular resource. It might have the significance with respect to the economy. It might be having certain significance with respect to employment or ensuring certain energy security, or maybe with respect to the food security aspect, any of those aspects. So talk about the significance. Once we discuss about the significance of those resources, we have to talk about what are the challenges that are persisting with respect to that particular resource and realizing the significance of that resource. That has to be understood. This dimension has to be put. And the last aspect of making notes on these particular topics, especially with respect to resources, is what is the way forward that is available. And when you look at the way forward with respect to any of these resources topic, one very important aspect is the sustainability aspect has to be emphasized. The sustainability aspect has to be emphasized for the reason that most of these resources are natural. And when most of these resources are natural, they would have a limiting capacity. They would have a limited availability. And when you have a limited availability with respect to these resources, the sustainability component has to be emphasized. That is going to be the way forward, and what should be done with respect to the sustainability aspect of that particular resource extraction or resource utilization. Right? Now looking at the analysis of what are the questions that are generally asked, when you look at this, they are asking about the Arctic region. And they are again asking about the significance of discovery of oil in Arctic Sea. Again, natural resources rich in Africa. Then South China Sea in the context of geopolitical significance. Now this question is a bit tricky for the reason that they are asking about South China Sea with respect to geopolitical significance. In which paper, my dear? In GS1. Generally, when you talk about this geopolitical significance and when you talk about this aspect of South China Sea, it is a question of international relations in GS2. Now it becomes little difficult for you to contextualize this particular question as the question that has to be written in GS1. So that aspect has to be taken care, right? Then oceanic resources, it talks about a very broad question with respect to what are the various resources of ocean that are present in meeting the resource crisis of the world, right? Now taking the question of practice that we would see this particular question with respect to discussion, critically evaluate the various resources of ocean which can be harnessed to meet the resource crisis in the world. Now in this, the question form that is seen is critical evaluation. Then apart from that, the various resources of ocean. This is the second keyword that has to be emphasized. And it is talking about how is this to be harnessed to meet the resource crisis. That means the first component of any answer writing that we have been discussing is structure. As part of the structure, the first thing that we have done so far is to identify the keywords. This part we have done. Now we have to see that what are the subheadings that can be generated to enhance the scope of this answer. And when you look at what are the subheadings that can be evaluated or that can be generated, you see that what are the general resources that are present in oceans. What are the general resources that are present in ocean? And the second aspect is that how are these going to meet the resource crisis? Meet the resource crisis. This is the second heading that can be generated. The third subheading that can be generated with respect to this particular question, as they are asking about critical evaluation. Critical evaluation, that means the flip side of the dimension has to be seen. Now, when you look at the other dimension, you know that with resource extraction of this ocean, there is also a constraint existing, that the resources of this ocean might be exhausted. So, we have to see that what are the issues that might be generated by utilization of these resources. And the fourth dimension that you can include as part of this answer is the measures or the way forward, that as I told you in the starting of this video, that one aspect of the measure has to be the sustainability of these resources. Then the second aspect of any answer that we have been discussing so far is the content aspect. And when you look at the content aspect, you can straight away say that the oceanic resources are present around 70% of the earth. And talk about its relevance with respect to meeting the crisis, meeting the resource crisis. One aspect is you talk about the marine biota, which can ensure certain element of the food habits or certain elements of the dietary practice. Then the mineral resources, because you know that the terrestrial minerals are limited. And apart from that, you can diversify the mineral resources with the utilization of resources that are, or the minerals that are present in the oceanic reserves. That one can be your polymetallic nodules, or the other aspect can be with respect to the oil, the gas, the petroleum, the fossil fuel reserve that is present with respect to the oceanic resources. The third dimension can be with respect to the renewable energy to meet the energy crisis, because it can be either ocean thermal energy or it can be with respect to the tidal energy. Any of these dimensions of renewable energy can be harnessed from the oceanic resources. The fifth dimension is with respect to utilization of the biota or the biodiversity of that oceanic resources, be it your seaweeds or seagrass, especially in pharma and food industry. Then we can talk about the placer deposits. The placer deposits, the most valuable or the precious metals that are derived from the placer deposits. And it can also be a source for tourism and the recreational purpose, especially the scuba diving, the adventure tourism with respect to this particular oceanic resources. And we have to see the other dimension, that by extraction or by utilization or by harnessing such oceanic resources, we will also have certain constraint with respect to the exploitation of those resources. And when you are having that exploitation of those resources, certainly the capacity or the sustainability of these resources is at question. So we have to talk about that particular dimension, that what are the concerns that are existing by utilizing such resources. One concern is the marine pollution. Automatically something like oil spills, something like the great plastic garbage patch that is present. Then apart from that, you talk about the issues with respect to the coral bleaching. As you know, the corals are the evergreen forest of the oceanic kind of ecosystem. Those can be at threat. Then apart from that, we talk about certain geopolitical issues that are existing with respect to this particular utilization of oceanic resources, especially the exclusive economic zones. You know that when you look at India being a peninsular region, you have the overlapping of these exclusive economic zones with some other countries like Bangladesh or Sri Lanka. So such issues might be generated in the process of utilization of these resources. Now here, what is going to be the way forward? The way forward is certainly the incorporation of the sustainable principles, incorporation of the elements of sustainability when utilizing or when harnessing those resources, and promoting the components of blue economy. Right? This is the question of discussion. Maybe one question can be taken for practice. The question for practice can be with respect to why is the India taking keen interest in the resources of Arctic region? Because in the recent past, India has come up with a draft Arctic policy, which is very, very important. So in that context, maybe you can take it as a practice question. So the answer for this practice question is available in the Telegram channel that is given in the description. Thank you.